So a while ago, I had Roger Christian on my channel, and it was the most fantastic interview I've ever had. He was actually on the set of Star Wars. He was building Star Wars. He created Millennium Falcon. He's the one who created the lightsabers. And in my interview, he talks about what made Star Wars so special at the time. We had the Millennium Falcon, we had lightsabers, we had all these things. And what was it from other sci-fi movies that made Star Wars so spectacular and so special? Well, I'm going to show you this interview, and then afterwards, I'm going to let you know what my thought was as to things that made Star Wars special. But this part made it so special to me, and I think to everybody else. So here's the clip.
He told me then he wanted to make the spaghetti western in space, and I kind of admitted that I had not connected to any science fiction movies before because I found them all futuristic and unreal, and I imagined it like an old car in a garage that you kept repairing and it was dripping oil. Well, little did I know at the time I was exactly describing the Millennium Falcon, and only realized it when we got into London months later. I made the weapons out of old World War II guns because I didn't have time to make anything, and I love these old guns. They're just beautiful.
They're fantastic.
Everything that I did like that went to, I can't do the Millennium Falcon interiors, but if I buy scrap aeroplane, then I can fill the sets with it. And this was an idea I had. I didn't know if it would work, but I knew I could buy it cheaply. Everything like that created a look. And that first set became like the vision of what it was going to be. And I called George down and said, you better come and have a look, because I think we dressed it. And that was when George smiled, and there it was. There was this ship. The hold itself was going on at the same time, and it would look terrible. I was praying people wouldn't come and look at it, because the junk only works once you've got it really layered and the corridors really layered in. I would putting in plastic drain piping, wires. We found a telephone exchange that was being pulled down in England, in London. And my buyer bought the whole telephone exchange. All the wires were going in and things like that. And finally, it emerged. And the corridors, once we got it crusted and we painted it down and oiled it down and everything. And then I could see people coming on the set just like their mouths opened. They couldn't believe that this was actually a real ship somehow. And I think, you know, that obviously that was the influence. That's why Ridley begged me to come on Alien and create the entire Nostromo interiors, which I had to do. I took my prop boys I trained over. And that became the standard look. And it's funny because we created an industry, they told me later, when I was directing Second Unit on Phantom Menace. Rick McCallum said, you know what's happened now? You can only rent the stuff in England. It's so expensive. It was cheaper for him to buy scrap aeroplanes in the graveyards in Texas and fly it to Tunisia and London for them to build the sets out of. So it's a standard now. It's, you know, even Avatar I see very similar. He still uses, you know, junk and formed junk and made junk. If you have the budget and the time, you can create the stuff. But I think, you know, I was inspired by submarines, B-52 bombers, and when you look at the first astronauts going up in these little tiny crammed kind of pods, they flew around in. And it was a part of Star Wars getting accepted by an audience, because they didn't have to kind of look and go, well, that's weird. Oh, what's that funny shape? Why are they in that weird space? You just accepted they were in a real environment. And I think that was my dream. That was my purpose always. And I felt that's how I would make science fiction if I could do it. And it just happened to coincide with George, whose, you know, spaghetti western in space vision was exactly the same. We just didn't have to talk. We didn't have to discuss it. I just knew inherently what to do.
Well, my 6-year-old inner child thanks you so much. He
I
loves
get a
you.
lot. I get a lot of that. I know. I get so many people, and I've got a 10-year-old now who just is always building bits of Lego and lightsabers and all sorts of stuff. So the same way.
So as you saw, Roger Christian was hands deep, elbows deep into the making of Star Wars. I mean, he just did it all. Basically, anything you see on there, he built in Star Wars. And I think it's because they made it to where when you watched it, it looked like something that you would recognize. It made it a personable movie. They didn't make it to where you're looking at like a console or something and there's an orb or there's like some weird piece and everything is like super clean, super high tech to where we had no understanding. We knew that when you push this button, what would happen, or when you pull the lever down, this would happen. So I think that when Roger Christian did it, as he said, they were making a spaghetti western in space, and that he was making it to where it would be something that everybody in the audience would recognize, like the like he said, the greasy engine that you had to like fix, or the guns that he took from World War II, which is super cool. That's what all the stormtroopers were using, those guns. So yeah, that is what I think made this movie so special compared to all the other ones. It was just so great. It was so great. I mean, they just put it all together and made it something that you and I could relate to and could understand. And you didn't have to have like a backstory of what is this or what is that, and everything was, in the Millennium Falcon, everything was like greasy and old and dented and rusted, just like normal day life. Well, that's what I got out of the interview, of what Roger was trying to tell me and what he was trying to portray to everybody that was watching this interview. And if you would like, you can watch the complete interview right here. It is fantastic, so much information, and I really loved talking to Roger. He was such a nice guy and so full of information. May the Force be with you always.